Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for taking a minute here to watch a summary of my presentation. This presentation is used to was built to demonstrate the functionality and capabilities of AWS's Sumerian application. Sumerian is the 3D and VR rendering application for Amazon, and it's got a lot of cool functions to it. It can do a lot of things. It's not very powerful. I think it breaks down. Well, I know it breaks down pretty easily, and I'll get to talking to that in just a minute. But basically, this project was designed to simulate the game board from back in the day, the Labyrinth maze. Okay, the Labyrinth maze, right, had a little marble, and you could tilt the board with the wheels. I'm using my keypad right now. Tilt the board with the wheels, and the ball would navigate through them. And the goal is to get to the end. Notice, if you remember, in the game, there were holes that the ball could fall through to make this actually a challenge. But in this scenario, there isn't. And again, I'm going to get to that in just a little bit as to why the holes didn't make it into the final project. Also, the final project was supposed to have, if I refresh this page, we were going to have a scoreboard up top. The scoreboard also didn't make it in because of limitations on the physics engines. There's going to be a nice little scoreboard right here that the HTML and the scripts necessary are actually written, but it couldn't be implemented because the physical objects weren't working properly. So I'll get to that in just 1 minute. First, I want to kind of pop over to this console, and we'll take a look here at the actual building of the game. So Sumerian is broken. The Sumerian console is broken down into a number of little screens over here. Okay, a number of panels. On the left here, we have a list of all of the objects on the page. Each wall is a separate object. Okay, so that's why there's a fair number of them. The table itself is an object. The ground beneath it down there is an object. The marble I have hidden by default is an object. Okay, so all these objects you can customize them over here. You have transform properties, geometry properties, material properties to change colors and whatnot. And then some of the cool stuff that we get into is the state machine, rigid body, and collider. These are a number of the components that are available to the objects. The state machine says, hey, make sure that they're listen for a behavior, whether have the capability to listen for a behavior. So I can come in here and I can start associating different behaviors for the application. And I can access and toggle through all the different behaviors by behavior over here, and then I can access them through the object that they're linked to in the entities panel. So the state machine adds behaviors. The rigid body makes the object respond to gravity. So this gives the ball a mass, and this gives the velocity and the different positions. Okay, and then collider says, hey, make sure objects actually collide with each other. If I remove the collider, then the ball will just fall through all these other objects, and they won't go together. So the collider is what makes objects actually interact with each other as opposed to just ignoring their existence. And when you make an object a trigger by clicking that button, what that does, and actually I have a trigger that was built out, but again, doesn't work because this trigger right here, that makes it so that things, these behaviors can listen for them. It says, hey, on trigger, whenever an object comes into interaction with this trigger, what you need to do is you need to do something, basically. In this context, it was going to submit an end message, and then with the end message listening over here, we would execute a script that would update the scoreboard and all that sort of stuff. But since the trigger never worked, I couldn't have the ball disappear or update a scoreboard based on a trigger event because the trigger event didn't happen. And the reason the trigger event wouldn't happen is because I have too many objects in my scene, which is strange because I only have 40 objects, which if you think about like a 3D, like a house or something, or a virtual reality environment, right? Like 40 objects is not a lot. But I was on the Slack channel with Amazon's engineers, and they basically said that that's a huge flaw in their physics machine, and that they are looking to change their physics machine because of that exact reason. There's lots of complaints about it, and it's a pretty big issue because it just doesn't work very well. So basically, what that left me with was no scoreboard and no holes, and the end doesn't really do anything. So limited functionality as opposed to what I originally wanted to do, but I think for this little this little demo here, I think it kind of shows some of the functionality that AWS has. You can write scripts again to kind of go through all this stuff and make some crazy fun stuff happen, but wasn't able to implement here. So anyway, happy to answer your questions. Thanks for watching.